We got to talk about a story circulating from the NFL draft because it should have Miami Dolphins fans quite excited about the second round selection of Arizona offensive lineman Jonah Savaiinaea, because there is a circulating rumor that the New England Patriots were thinking of taking Jonah with the 38th overall pick. And a lot of Dolphins fans during the NFL draft were perplexed on why Miami ultimately traded up to grab Savaiinaea, which evidently was one spot ahead of New England at pick 37. Remember, this is what the Dolphins traded to get that selection in front of New England. They sent their second round pick 48, they sent their lone third round pick at 98, and their second fourth round pick at the time 135 to acquire that second round selection at 37 overall, and then one of the first three picks of the fifth round at 143 overall. So obviously, if Miami caught wind that the New England Patriots and company were thinking about going Jonah Savaiinaea with the 38th overall pick, you needed to jump them at that 38th overall spot. Now, New England ultimately took Travion Henderson, the running back from Ohio State, at that spot, but there is a lot of buzz about this being someone in Jonah that New England was ultimately going to take. We'll share those story details here in 1 second, but make sure you do follow me over at Twitter. Nic_Rohloff is my handle. I talk about the Fins over on Twitter every day, news, rumors. If you want more coverage on the Dolphins in between our YouTube videos, go give me a follow at Nic_Rohloff. All right, this is why I wanted to make this video, because I thought it would be something you guys were interested to know about from the draft, but it also fires me up a little bit. Eliot Wolf, the Patriots GM, was talking about the draft after day 2, and he said that him and the front office had a little bit of a debate for that number 38 overall pick. But one of the players we were talking about got drafted, so it didn't end up mattering. But I think it was a really good step in the right direction just for us to be working together. So blah, 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 blah. No one cares about that last part. But he talked about a player they were thinking of be taking at 38 and debating about being off the board. Well, there was only about 5 players that went before New England's pick at 38. There was obviously Jaden Higgins from Iowa State, the wide receiver. You saw Quinshon Judkins, the running back from Ohio State. You saw a tight end go off the board. Well, Patriots beat reporter Greg Bedard said that Jonah Savaiinaea was one of the players New England was considering at that 38th overall pick. So maybe, and just maybe, when Wolf was talking about they were having a debate, seems like it could have been between Henderson and Savaiinaea, which is why Chris Grier traded up. So if there are still people wondering why Grier traded up in front of New England to that 37 spot to take Jonah, well, that is why. They must have caught wind that New England was thinking about taking him, and they circled him on their board as someone they wanted. And I know a lot of people believe they could have sat there at pick 48 and let Jonah Savaiinaea come to him. That seems like it wasn't going to be the case. So let me know your thoughts. Did Chris Grier make a good move trading up in the NFL draft? It is today's pinned comment, so if you get with the YouTube ad break, scroll down, let it play. But did Grier make the right decision trading up from 48 to 37 to get that pick so they could draft Jonah Savaiinaea? Listen, everybody knows if you've been with the channel, but if you're someone watching the channel for the first time today, appreciate you. Make sure you hit that sub button. But I've been super critical of Chris Grier over the last 3 seasons. I've looked at all the moves he's made, the trades, the people he let walk, the signings. I've been very critical of a lot of what he has done. But salute to him for reading the Patriots like a book, Eliot Wolf and Mike Vrabel, and sniping them by trading up and grabbing Jonah Savaiinaea. A lot of people might have just thought they were going to go with an offensive weapon, which they ended up doing in Travion Henderson after they drafted Will Campbell in the first round. So it was like, would they really double down on offensive line in the second round? Well, it seems like they were certainly thinking about doing that with Jonah, and Miami ultimately got up in front of them and added them and him to the roster, which makes me very, very excited because this is a starting caliber offensive lineman with a lot of versatility. He played tackle and guard over his last 3 seasons at the college level, and he is a better pass blocker than a run blocker via Pro Football Focus, but I think he is going to be an excellent run blocker in the Miami Dolphins system. And I think looking at his athleticism is very important here because we know in the Mike McDaniel offense, the offensive linemen need to have good, quick foot speed, explosive off the line of scrimmage, and an ability to get outside to the perimeter and up to the second level sooner rather than later. And he graded out as an offensive lineman and a tackle at a 9.1 RAS with a bunch of greens and elite speed for his size. Now, a lot of people believe he is going to be a guard in the NFL, which is why the people think he is going to be a guard for Miami because of his little bit lack of size, but that speed is very, very impressive. He has a 9.19 RAS for being an offensive tackle. If you just translated those exact same numbers to an offensive guard, want to know what his RAS would be? 9.85, one of the more elite athletic offensive guards in the NFL, and as a prospect in Jonah Savaiinaea, which makes me very excited about the future that he has with the Miami Dolphins. But make sure you are subscribed because we're going to continue to break down Dolphins every single day. The draft is over. Free agency is mostly over, but the Dolphins will make moves. We will have news, rumors, trade rumors, the whole 9 yards. Hit that sub button. Let's get to 70K ASAP. Would be a huge milestone on the channel. And when you look at the offensive line, this is kind of where I think things might be heading towards this upcoming season. Obviously, the big signing in free agency was James Daniels, 3-year, $24 million deal. A lot of people, myself included, thought he was going to play right guard for Miami. But after you drafted Jonah Savaiinaea, someone who has played right guard at college, right tackle, and left tackle, I think it's better to play him at right guard. Why? Well, I said this on a video a couple days ago, but Patrick Paul, first-time starter full-time at left tackle. It would make sense to have a veteran next to him to kind of have that experience and good communication skills from Daniels. So you have a veteran next to the first-time full-year starter in Paul. And then Savaiinaea, who's making the transition to guard from offensive tackle, is going to be sandwiched potentially in between two really good veterans in Austin Jackson and Aaron Brewer. To me, it just makes a lot of sense to provide Savaiinaea and Patrick Paul with veteran players next to them. And it seems like Mike McDaniel is very much open to that. Listen, there is no set-in-stone offensive line. When McDaniel was talking about the selection of Savaiinaea after the Day 2 NFL draft, Porters asked him, where do you envision him playing? Well, McDaniel wasn't locked into anything, said that he's not sure if Daniels will play left guard or right guard, Jonah will play left guard or right guard. One thing is clear, Austin Jackson's your right tackle, Aaron Brewer's your center, Patrick Paul is getting first crack at left tackle, and you will see through training camp, minicamp, OTAs, and the preseason how McDaniel wants to kind of put Daniels and Savaiinaea, whether it's left guard or right guard. But another reason why I believe it should be right guard for Savaiinaea is because, well, he has more experience doing that at the college level. Over the last 3 seasons where he's been pretty much a full-time starter, he has played multiple positions. He split time between left tackle and right tackle this past year for Arizona. In 2023, he played exclusively right guard, 985 snaps. And when he played in 2022, he was mostly a right tackle. That's how he got the bulk of those snaps, playing about 700 snaps at right tackle in 2022. So he can play 3 different spots, which is something we know Chris Grier values, versatility on the offensive line, but also at almost any position. But with him having experience at the right guard spot, to me, it makes sense. Why not, if you're moving him from tackle to guard in the NFL, have him play a spot he has done in his past? We'll round out the conversation here in 1 second, but make sure you get your Dolphins jerseys. Chatsports.com/Dolphins jersey. You can get Jonah Savaiinaea's jersey. You can get the first-round pick Kenneth Grant's. When these numbers get finalized, they will ship them out to you. You can still go get a Tyreek Hill jersey if you want, a Tua jersey, a Jalen Waddle jersey. Everybody's on sale. One more time, chatsports.com/Dolphins jersey. Links in the description and comments of today's video. But when it comes to Savaiinaea and his fit, I want to continue and end the show with strictly talking about the second-round pick for Miami. Second straight year, by the way, the Dolphins used their second-round pick on an offensive lineman. Last year was Patrick Paul. This year it's obviously Jonah. I think we talked about his athleticism and the wide zone scheme that Miami does. They have so many pitches, so many stretch zone runs, so many end-arounds, and these offensive linemen have to be quick and getting out to the perimeter and to the next level. Well, when you look at Jonah and what he's done over his collegiate career, he has been better in zone run blocking plays and schemes. Now, his run blocking grades aren't like the best in the world. Like, I'm not going to act like he was the best offensive lineman of all time here, but you see that he was much better suited and graded by Pro Football Focus when they ran zone run plays rather than power gap run plays. So that is another reason why I think Miami had him circled on their board relatively high. And you talk about Savaiinaea as a prospect here. He was the 5th ranked guard according to Chat Sports, the 66th overall player, but I don't think it's that big of a jump to take him at 37. I really don't. I think him and Tate Ratledge, the other guard that was taken in the second round of the draft, were clearly the second kind of tier. You had Donovan Jackson, you had a Kelvin Banks, you had some of these other offensive linemen that could transition to guard, Gray Zabel, clearly ahead of Jonah and Tate Ratledge. But those two were no doubt that number 2 guy. And the frame, the speed, the athleticism, I love from Jonah. I think the strength that he possesses as well is not talked about enough. He's not just an agile offensive lineman. He can play with power. It'll be fascinating to see how he makes the transition from O tackle at college, doing that 2 out of 3 seasons, to full-time offensive guard. But hey, if Patrick Paul stinks up the joint this year, you always know you can maybe move Jonah Savaiinaea out to left tackle. Before we close out the video here today, grade the Jonah Savaiinaea pick. Include the trade up. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section how you would grade this pick. Well, if you watched our draft grade video, you would know that I gave it a B+. And when I graded that, I also included the trade up. I know a lot of people weren't happy giving up pick 98 to move up to take Jonah at pick 37. But to be honest, if they circled him as their top offensive guard target in the second round, a position of need, and us fans wanted them to build through the trenches big time, well, yeah, I'm going to be happy with that move. But honestly, in all jokes aside, I'm being serious, I could give it an A+, because that means there's no world, unless an injury occurs, where Liam Eichenberg has a chance to be the starting offensive guard again this year. When they re-signed him, I got nervous that could be a possibility. But when you spend a top 40 pick on Jonah, yeah, he's going to be starting week 1 unless he is absolutely horrific when the team gets their hands on him this upcoming summer. So no more Liam Eichenberg unless injury. Thank goodness. The only gripe I have with that pick is them passing on Will Johnson. Listen, I know Will slid all the way to 47, which would have been 1 pick ahead of Miami's original pick. I would have crashed out, by the way, if we got sniped on Will Johnson. And I get it, knee injuries, every team passed on him pretty much and had him slide all the way to the middle of the second round, so people might say, I don't want an injury-prone corner like Will Johnson. But he was my number 1 guy for the Fins entering the draft. I really like Will Johnson. I still believe he's going to be a stud at the next level. So the only reason why I can't grade this Jonah pick higher than a B+, because I would if I could, is that they did end up passing on Will Johnson. I know people are going to mention corner not being addressed, but Savone Revel wasn't taken to the 3rd round. Trey Amos wasn't until the 3rd round. The only other corner that was really taken in round 2 was Benjamin Morrison. That will do it for this episode of Dolphins Today. Make sure you are subscribed for daily content. We do still also go live on a weekly basis here at the channel. Be live later today if you're watching this on Tuesday. We go live every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, so make sure you subscribe and join us.